Oh, hey there, and you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, everybody? Gene Berardelli, Ross Galloway is back here with us. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Wednesday night. You could have been anywhere tonight, yet for some reason you chose to be with us. Hey, pal, how you doing?
You are truly behind enemy lines more so than I am, or at least closer to the front line than I am.
Well, I like to think that I have a front row seat to the enemy lines. I'm not there. In my area, the Republicans prevailed quite handily. So, yay us. But we're going to be talking about the post-mortem we're going to give here for many of these elections, especially the one in the People's Republic of New York City. I see people starting to come in already. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on the way in as you join us here. Did you have any races in your area? I'm not going to say where you are. Did you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, local municipal stuff. And believe it or not, it's weird. A lot of the municipal races where I live are nonpartisan, which is complete BS, right? Like, you should have to label yourself in a party, even if it's a fake party like Andrew Cuomo ran on. By the way, in your neck of the woods, were you in the Honorable George Santos's district?
No.
Oh, okay.
Definitely not.
Honorable.
he doesn't have a district anymore. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I know I took a week off, and then you went on a George Santos bashing fest.
Oh, I did not. I did not. That was our guest, Tracy Alvino's final thought that you missed, by the way. But let's play it for everybody so they can be reminded of the error of your ways.
Talk about something you're not going to think I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about George Santos.
Oh, fuck.
Listen, guys, people on the right, listen to me. This man is no conservative icon, and he's not a conservative hero. I ran his campaign until July of that year. And I dipped out of the campaign when I realized he was full of baloney. Now, I didn't realize how full of baloney he was. But this man, we now have one of the worst and most egregious crimes this man committed was stealing from a disabled veteran.
You hear that? That's your boy. That's your boy. That's what you're supporting here. And how exactly did he do that, Galloway? Do you know?
He stole money from this man that was meant to be used for his service dog. And unfortunately, because George stole the money, that service dog died. To me,
the dog died, Galloway. Dead. The pet dead. And this is your guy? This is your guy? How dare you?
I don't even think women should be allowed to vote, let alone running campaigns. Okay.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit as well, by the way. But no, Tracy Alvino is the best. You know that.
No offense to Tracy. I just don't think they should be allowed to vote, let alone run a political campaign.
So, but you're good with voting for the guy where the dog died. That's what you're okay with, right?
He was never charged with killing an animal.
No, he was charged with fraud with the money, and the dog died.
Whatever.
So you would tell a disabled veteran who got swindled out of money by George Santos and his dog ended up dying. You would tell that disabled veteran, "It's the way it goes, Jack. George Santos is my guy."
I'm not buying the story, man. If that was true, that would have been instead of arguing about his fake volleyball scholarship, that would have been the lead.
It was part of the court. You know, we're not here to talk about that.
No, we're not. Let's move on. Let's just agree to disagree, and George Santos is going to make a comeback.
Agree to disagree. Wow. Okay. Well, here's one thing that we won't disagree on. The People's Republic of New York City is no longer a funny moniker that we use on the show, that we've been using, by the way, since 2010. And don't see you people using it out there right now. You're welcome, by the way. It is now the prophecy has become a reality. Wouldn't you know it? Zoran Mamdani, the big winner in the People's Republic of New York City last night. I guess congratulations to him. The symbols of the bad people from WW2 are already up on some yeshivas in Brooklyn. Didn't take too long to do it. But let's talk about this race. First of all, I can say I'm not surprised by what happened here. Are you surprised at all?
I'm not surprised that he won, but I am surprised and I shouldn't even say surprised. I'm disappointed, but I expect nothing more from the supposed New York City Republicans. Right?
They
They
don't.
turned on Curtis Sliwa and actually went for Cuomo, which is sacrilegious in my view. Like, you can't vote for Cuomo. You almost have to take the medicine and take Mamdani, right? There's no way that I would have ever switched votes. And I know we have a lot to talk about, but I looked at the numbers from Staten Island, right? Curtis Sliwa went from like winning that borough against Eric Adams in years past to getting blown out in this election, right? Because the Staten Island elected, several of them, including Joe Berardelli, were running around telling people to vote for Andrew Cuomo, which is insane.
Yeah. Coffee Grinder out here saying, how can any Jewish person openly support him, meaning Mamdani? Do they not realize Islam wants all Jews unalived? We're going to get into the weeds with this, pal, because I found a tool for us to look at and break down this race. I'm going to put it up on the screen now. Let me see if I can get my screen sharing going here. This is a project of CUNY Graduate School in that they take the numbers from the Board of Election, plot it on a map, and break it down for us by different segments of population here. So I don't know how well you can see that on the screen, but what you see on the right, that is a map of the People's Republic of New York City. I can try to zoom out on it a little bit here because we're not going to really be using the map. There it is. So there's the map of the city of New York. Staten Island, you said, went mostly for Cuomo. He's in green. Mamdani is in blue. The intensity of the area shows how big of a win it was for each respective candidate. You're not going to find any red on there for Sliwa because he didn't win any election district in the entire city. But there are the numbers as they stand currently. Mamdani with 50.4%. He won a majority. And Cuomo won 41.6%. The most surprising thing at the outset, pal, is the turnout. Over 2 million votes tabulated here in a very large turnout. Mamdani expanded the voter population, expanded the base, which is why he got over the 50% mark.
Yeah, he expanded the voting base, and I'm going back and forth with Coffee Grinder in the chat here. Yeah, there were different minority groups. Like New York City is majority minority. 50% of the people there were not born in the country. That's first of all, right? So obviously you have this coalition of minority groups that joined together and elected a communist. That's one problem with failing to assimilate new arrivals. But the tipping point, and maybe you can get into it in this chart, were liberal white women that went for all of these Democrats from New York City to Virginia to New Jersey at the 80%. Young liberal white women were voting for these leftists at 80%, right?
Yeah.
So you could blame the Jews, the blacks, the Hispanics. You can blame whoever you want. It's liberal white women that have the mental disorder in this country right now.
Right, and that's what the exit polling showed us. Let's do that first. Here's a Fox News exit poll talking about how Mamdani dominated the youth vote, voters under 30, both male and female, but especially the women.
Groups that we're seeing behind the vote really telling the story here in New York City. When you break it down by age of the voter, the youth vote overwhelmingly went for Mamdani in this race. 75% of their support went to him. And when you break this down into gender, that number gets even bigger. The female youth vote, women under the age of 30, you break that down, that number goes over 80% support for Mamdani in this race. Other key findings that we're finding in the New York City mayoral race, what qualities were voters looking for in their candidate? This was a change election. 27% said they wanted to bring change to the city. And look at that. They supported Mamdani. 72% of their vote went to him.
And that's the base that he expanded because, as Juju said in the chat, pale, male, and is too stale. Oh, let me see if I can get this right. Pale, stale males can't win anymore. And that's the truth in the People's Republic of New York City.
Yeah, and I mean, the greatest obstacle to a functioning democracy, a lot of people think it's the filibuster right now. It's truly the 19th Amendment. It's time we revisit that, and just like prohibition, maybe repeal the 19th Amendment and let's get some sanity back in this electoral process. Google the 19th Amendment, people, if you don't know what I'm talking about.
We will definitely calm down with that nonsense. But let's get back to the chart here, because there's a lot of interest in these numbers, for at least for me. I'm wonky like that. So the CUNY Graduate Center for Urban Research we can break down these numbers based on a number of different factors. One of them is based upon ethnicity of the voter, based upon their surname. So here's registered voters with Jewish surnames. And what we see, Cuomo got 57%, Mamdani 37.3%. Are you shocked by that?
I'm not shocked by that. As a veteran of New York City politics, the Jewish voting bloc talks a great game about conservative lifestyles and religious freedom and all of these things. But when it comes time to vote, they run as Democrats and they vote for Democrats. And in this case, they're voting for communists and socialists. Not surprising at all.
And they certainly do that locally, and then they'll maybe vote for national federal elections. They'll vote for the GOP. But let's add another wrinkle to this. We can also break this down further by adding in GOP or no party voters. So now we have two qualifiers, Jewish surnames and GOP and no party voters. And here we see again, 75%, 3/4 of those in that segment went to Cuomo. 15.8% of either GOP or blank voters, as we call them, went to Mamdani. Now, I don't know how many is broken down between GOP and blank, but if you are a GOP voter and you have a Jewish surname here, I'm going to say that I don't think necessarily you should consider yourself Republican anymore. I think you're misidentifying yourself.
Is there such a thing as a Republican in New York City, Gene? Really?
Well, we'll get into that in a second for sure. We're going to talk about that because we have inside baseball about how candidates are picked within the Republican Party for mayor. And we know where the bodies are buried on that.
Yeah, and just before you jump off that topic, I mean, what just happened to Curtis Sliwa, who is no fan of Donald Trump, and I'm no fan of Curtis Sliwa, right? But he always did help out in local elections and support the Republican Party. And for the party and a lot of the Republican elected officials in New York City to turn their backs on this guy, what message does that send to any future legitimate Republicans that might think about running for mayor? Right? There ain't going to be another one.
And by the way, full disclosure, when I ran for city council in the People's Republic of New York City in 2009, Curtis Sliwa endorsed me. He came to a fundraiser of mine, made an appearance, glad-handed with the little bit of donors that I was able to cobble together. And before he did that, he interviewed me. He asked me questions about, my positions, my policies, my opinions. And based upon that conversation, he endorsed me. He was, very straight arrow, honest guy, pulled no punches with me. And I always remember that, and I always appreciate that. Do I think he should be mayor? I don't think so, but that's a problem of the Republicans in New York City. It's an infrastructure problem. It is a death spiral going on there that we'll certainly get into. But I do, let's break down a few more categories here. So, pal, we went through Jewish surnames. We went through GOP. How about we just do GOP all together here? Because a big story of the race in the past week has been the call from prominent Republicans, including Donald Trump, to pull Republican voters away from Curtis Sliwa. So this is just GOP and no party voters. And if you look at the numbers, Cuomo wins that group again. 57.9, 25% is probably more of the blanks than it is the GOP win for Mamdani. Sliwa with 15.9%. Now, I did some number crunching on my own outside of these charts, pal. And this is what I found. I want to see what you think. So the raw numbers from the Board of Elections show that this election cycle, what I'm calling the right of center voter, the voter who voted on the Republican line and on the conservative line and on whatever independent line there may have been at the time, they totaled between 425,000 votes and 465,000 votes in the other citywide races for public advocate and comptroller. So let's average that out. We'll call it 450,000. Sliwa got a total of 146,000 votes, which means he severely underperformed in that race. So what people were doing, in my opinion, they were finding Cuomo on like row 12 or whatever the hell he was, then going back to row 2 onto the other side of the ballot here. So back in 2021, Sliwa was getting 325,000 votes from writer Senate candidates. Sliwa did not have the conservative line because the conservative chairman, Jerry Kassar, probably has a vendetta with Curtis Sliwa. I don't know, but I'm guessing that. But the conservative line in this race for public advocate and comptroller yielded about 50,000 votes. For the split ticket on the mayor's race, that placeholder conservative, Irene Estrada, whoever the hell that is, I think she's a Democrat, got 1,800 votes. So the Conservative Party just threw their line away. The right of center voter base in New York did expand by 125,000 votes because Curtis Sliwa, even without the conservative line last time around, pulled in 325,000. They're averaging around 450 in this race for the other citywide races. So that voter base expanded 125,000. You would think that would be good news. But this shows you how weak and how horrible the brand loyalty is for the for the GOP in New York City from right of center voters, which goes to your point, pal. These numbers tell me there is no such thing as a GOP voter in New York City. They go wherever the winds tell them to go.
GOP voter, no such thing in New York City, and GOP elected official, there's no such thing, right? Lots of the local people, the city councilwoman, what's her name, Irina?
Yeah, from a district near where I lived.
Yeah, yes. She told people to go out and vote for Cuomo. I just want to double tap what you mentioned about the Conservative Party line. For those of you guys who are not from New York, there is a party in New York called the Conservative Party, right? And they play spoiler all the time. Now, this race, it wasn't close enough for them to make a difference, right? But let's just say we had a strong candidate and Cuomo wasn't running, right? Where we had an opportunity to possibly stop Mamdani by, convincing people to vote for the moderate Republican in the race. But the conservatives gave their line to some random person where if the difference was 2 or 3 percentage points, that would cost the Republicans the election. And that happens in every election cycle, in every district that is somewhat competitive in New York, because the Conservative Party demands concessions. They want things. They want you to go to their fundraisers. They want you to adopt certain policies. They want something. And if you don't give them that something, they run a candidate in a competitive district and don't give their line to the Republican, which is a death sentence. When if there was such a thing as a GOP voter, Gene, because before I got educated, I didn't know any better. You go into the voting booth and you're thinking, oh, I'm a conservative and there's a Conservative Party line. Why isn't the Republican candidate endorsed by those guys? He must not be conservative, right? And that costs us elections throughout the city. They might actually be single-handedly responsible for destroying the Republican brand in New York.
And what's the most important thing they ask for besides going to fundraising dinners and things like that?
Jobs.
Yes. It's a grift. It's always been a grift. The Conservative Party is no such thing. They are the tail that wags the dog in the People's Republic of New York City. And the head of the snake is a guy named Jerry Kassar. And now that I'm free from institutional politics, I can say the man is a complete and total prick. Complete and total. Doesn't care about winning, only cares about what's in it for him and his people around him. My unvarnished opinion. I'm not saying it's fact. I'm saying it's an opinion.
Let me give one
But-
more opinion. You mentioned Donald Trump also told people to go out and vote for Cuomo. Here's what my gut tells me about that recommendation. Because I had mentioned this in a show many months ago when I thought Eric Adams would still hang around. I said the most brilliant thing Donald Trump could possibly do back then was endorse Eric Adams. Why? Because that would sink Eric Adams, and it would be a poke in the eye to Curtis Sliwa, who has no chance of winning and is also a never Trumper, right? So just replace Eric Adams with Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo definitely did not want Donald Trump's endorsement. Trump threw it out there anyway. Trump wanted Mamdani to win. Trust me on this one. He wants that foil. He needs it, right? He needs a bully. He needs a boogeyman, right? To kick around going into the midterms. And Mamdani is perfect in New York. Tried to throw Donald Trump in jail for the rest of his life. F New York. He doesn't care about them. He left.
And I wish, but I wish he would have told all his people on X that memo, because when you went on there, and X is a cesspool to begin with, but when you go on there and you see a bunch of people who don't know shit about elections in New York, especially Elon Musk of all people, saying that the ballot is a fraud because people appear more than once on it, or the way that the lines are configured, that Cuomo is in a place that he can't find him, and it's all a setup and it's all fraudulent from Democrats. You fucking morons. You have no clue how things work. And you didn't ask how things work. You didn't know that New York is a fusion state where constituted parties can rent out their line, really, to a candidate that is not enrolled in that party, and they can cross-endorse. That's how you end up with a Republican and a conservative and an independent all being the same person on the line. They're not part of that party. They're part of maybe one of those parties. That's why you have a Democrat Party and a Working Families Party, which, by the way, Mamdani voted for himself on the Working Families line Democrats. The Frankenstein's monster you created is eating the city alive. It's going to be happening. But none of these idiots on X asked about this. Elon Musk didn't ask about this. Had they asked, they would have known about the constituted party lines, and then they would have known about the independent nominating process where you can create a bullshit third-party line, which is why Curtis Sliwa appeared twice. You fucking morons.
Sorry, Gene.
Go whatever Trump says and not even think about the nuance of what he's doing, like what Ross was just talking about.
Sorry that Elon Musk didn't know that corruption was actually codified in the New York election law. Sorry.
Listen, it is what it is. But it's codified for really to help Republicans too. It helps the tails that wag the dog, like the Jerry Cassars of the conservative parties of the world. But it also does the same thing with the Working Families Party for the Democrats. That's their cross to bear. But you know what? Instead of saying it's all corrupt and fraudulent and all this, fucking look up the law. Understand the way the game is played here. It's not played like it is everywhere else. And some of those rules can be used to the advantage of people like Rudy Giuliani, who back in the day was on the Liberal Party line when he won for mayor in 1993. I just couldn't stand that stupid. It's a bone I pick. I'm being an election lawyer and all that, whatever. But what I'm saying is there were a lot of ignorant takes out there from a lot of two-faced, backstabbing, sellout mutts that I'm ready to call out by name, pal.
Let me call one out real quick.
Go ahead.
So I'm watching Fox News earlier, and Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, a supposed Republican from Staten Island, is on a show crying the blues about how Mamdani is going to destroy New York with a bunch of freebies and how prices are going to go up and government spending is going to increase and get out of control. Well, she's one of the same people, along with Michael Lawler from New York, who twisted arms that in order to pass the big, beautiful bill, the SALT tax would have to be repealed or increased drastically, the state and local tax deduction for places like New York, right? So Nicole, Lawler, you guys built this monster, and now you're helping feed the beast, right? If you would have voted on principle and tried to starve the beast, then maybe we wouldn't be where, or not me, maybe you wouldn't be where you are. So you got what you deserved. You got what you wanted. Good luck with all that.
And that's what I was talking about with the weakness of the brand for the GOP in New York City, especially because they play let's make a deal, because they fight for policies that might be good for their constituents, or maybe they aren't, but they play that game and they don't hold the line where they should a lot of times. One guy I'm going to call out is a radio show personality from WABC owned by John Katzimatidis, Sid Rosenberg. Bernie and Sid was a great show back in the day, but now that Sid's all alone because Bernie passed away, now Sid Rosenberg just goes along with whatever John Katzimatidis tells him. He says jump, Sid says how high. And Sid Rosenberg basically took a decades-long friendship with Curtis Sliwa and said, fuck it, I'm throwing it in the trash. I'm telling people to vote for Cuomo instead of my good personal longtime friend. That would be like me turning on you to get that guy. Remember that guy Seamus that was from the Brooklyn Democrats, the Young Democrats? That would be like me turning on you and saying vote for Seamus. That's what that would be like. You know, this mutt.
Listen, Sid is a mutt, but don't let the other guy you mentioned off the hook either.
Oh,
John Katzimatidis, the owner of Gristedes Supermarkets and WABC Radio, the biggest radio station in the country.
Yes,
who was a longtime friend and boss of Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa was stuck with the show, with the station through thick and thin. When WABC was on the ropes and John Katzimatidis bought it for pennies on the dollar, Curtis Sliwa stuck around and helped rebuild that entire station, right? And then when it came down to, and by the way, when John Katzimatidis ran for mayor himself, Curtis Sliwa was on board. Now, when Curtis runs, Katzimatidis was on board in the beginning, and then at the last minute pulled a rug out from under Curtis and came on TV and told people Curtis has no chance of winning. We should vote for Cuomo. Because John Katzimatidis is another scumbag.
He's another two-time backstabbing mutt. I'm with you on that's another sellout because he put his personal business interests ahead of, I'm not going to call it loyalty, but his own word. He was out there for Curtis. He broke his word. That's bullshit as far as I'm concerned. And this is coming from someone who tried to help John Katzimatidis get elected as mayor once upon a time, who stood by him, who worked a primary for him. I'm not going to out who else was working on that primary. But
no, and I will out myself. I also worked for him. And, in New York, you do have to make deals with the devil sometimes. And I'm not saying to endorse Democrats because I can never vote for Andrew Cuomo. I don't even know if I would vote for him if like Satan was running against him. Right. There's almost no way. But when Katzimatidis ran, Katzimatidis is not a conservative Republican. But in New York City, you're not going to find many conservative Republicans. Right. So John Katzimatidis was a successful businessman with a lot of money. He looks like shit. But, he might have had a chance of winning. So we circled the wagons and went for John Katzimatidis. Not a guy I always agree with. But for him to throw Curtis under the bus and then go with Andrew Cuomo, which I can't think of a single thing the Republican Party would have in common with Andrew Cuomo. Like, you don't just get to say, we have to save New York from a further left Democrat than me, so throw your own candidate off the ballot and vote for a Democrat. Like, that's not going to happen. That doesn't make sense. And Katzimatidis did it. Vernikov did it. Joe Borelli did it. They're all a bunch of scumbags.
Yeah. And that's why you will never have a viable Republican Party in New York City, because these same people will then go out there and ask for donations to grow the party, to fund their operations. Why the fuck would anyone agree to fund operations for that party when that party is run by sellouts, weasels, and backstabbers? Why in the world would anyone want to be a standard bearer of that party if it stands for nothing? And they might pull the rug out from under that standard bearer who is running on their line for the top office, not only in the city, but I would dare say the second highest office in the country. Why in the world would someone who can self-fund take that line, put their own money behind it, when there's a strong possibility that those losers, those grifters, those sellouts are going to backstab you. And now you're out of money, you're embarrassed, and you're left holding the bag. That's why there'll never be a viable Republican Party in the People's Republic of New York City, because there are no real Republicans in the People's Republic of New York City. Just self-interested grifters.
And Gene, before you jump off, do you still have that chart available? Because I want one more stat. If you could just pull up.
Oh, we can do a lot more stats here, pal. Give me a second. Let me.
I don't want to bore the audience staying on New York too long, but I do want to pull up, if you can, just the Manhattan results.
Well, okay, so I can.
No specific demographic, just overall results of who got what percent.
Let me see what I can do here.
Because I want to make a point here.
What kind of magic I can work with on this chart. If not, I can go to the Board of Elections and I can get those numbers.
Yeah,
So
just the Manhattan overall raw percentage.
Let me see if I can get it broken down by borough. Otherwise, I'll go to the Board of Elections site and I'll get it. Give me 1 second here.
I want to say it was upwards of 85% of that vote was for Mamdani.
You know what? I'm actually going to go to the Board of Elections website for mayor, and I can pull it up there in their summary. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, so while he's looking for that, the percentage is staggering when you factor in Mamdani and Cuomo's overall vote tally. And the reason why I picked out Manhattan specifically while he's looking this up is this is the place where they chose to try Donald Trump, right? This is the place where they brought him into court to hold a hearing to determine whether or not he spends the rest of his life in jail by a jury of his quote unquote peers, right? And when you see the numbers of what the Republican candidate pulled in the borough of Manhattan, it's staggering that you could think that Donald Trump would get a fair trial there.
Yeah, here are the numbers right now. Manhattan was pretty close. Mamdani pulled it out. Here are the aggregates of all the lines here. Mamdani got 50 point. That can't be it. Hang on. Mayor, I chose the right one here.
Manhattan was not close. I know that.
No, hang on. I gotta go back. I'm gonna keep the screen up. So, election contest, New York mayor. Let me go back again. Maybe. So, New York, Bronx, Kings, Queens, Richmond. This should be New York, right here. I click on mayor, and the numbers. This should be New York. This looks like the overall numbers for me. It looks like they don't have it for Manhattan. They only have it for New York total. But I'll pick another borough. Let's pick Kings for a second. Let's pick Brooklyn, our old stomping grounds. Let's see if they have the numbers for Brooklyn here. No, see, they glitched it out. They don't have it broken down by borough yet. So I don't think those numbers are out there, pal.
How convenient.
Isn't it convenient? Let me see if I go into the summer. If I go into the AD details, let me see. Maybe that's the way to do it. Oh, this might be it. This might be it right here. So New York, these are still unofficial numbers, by the way. Mamdani, 235,000. Cuomo, 224,000. So it was close there.
Well, add up those two Democrats together, and what did Sliwa get?
15,849.
Okay, so we're looking at 450,000 to 15,000. When you work out that percent, it's staggering. It's 90%, right? 85, 90% voted for a Democrat in that county. And that's where Donald Trump was supposed to get a fair trial by a jury of his peers?
Right. Well, believe it or not, pal, the numbers are even worse when let me show you this. So public advocate. This is a nothing position in the People's Republic of New York. We don't even know what the hell they do. They put out press releases and they put out statements or whatever, but that's supposedly the second most powerful office behind the mayor. When you look at this, I just want to show you this because this is more of a baseline of Republican and Democrat here. When you add up Jumaane Williams, who was reelected as public advocate in Manhattan, 318,000 plus 53,000 on the working families line, that's 370,000 versus 85,000 versus 94,000 for the right of center vote. So that's what, 420,000 to 90,000. That's like 5-1. Think about a jury pool now. That for every 6 jurors, you're going to have 1 that's going to be kind of right of center, and 5 that are going to be Democrats. And what do you think is going to happen in that jury room?
And what else? The last election, I just want to just throw out there: Alvin Bragg, the district attorney for Manhattan, who downgrades every crime, political prosecution or persecution.
Yeah,
he was reelected overwhelmingly, right? Like the city is gone. So why should anyone care? I don't care. I think it's hilarious. I love it. Fuck Nicole Malgatakis. Fuck everybody in New York. Good luck with that.
And here's another guy you can say fuck you to. This is Bill Ackman, who was one of those millionaires and billionaires out there that was funding Eric Adams until he wasn't, and then funding PACs for Eric Adams until he wasn't, then funding PACs for Cuomo, and one of the loudest voices out there trying to get Curtis Sliwa to drop out of the race. This is him after the election. Moguls slam Bill Ackman for congratulating Zoran Mamdani after spending a fortune to defeat him, calling him gimp-like. I got to read this story because this is crazy. So Ackman is the head of Pershing Square Capital. He's one of those, I guess, hedge fund guys, right? And he was out there railing on Sliwa to get out of the race, supporting Andrew Cuomo regardless of all the horrible shit he did. And then after the election, he goes on X after spending $2 million about to say to Mamdani, congrats on the win. You have a big responsibility. If I can help New York City, just let me know what I can do. Other people in his stature did not like this at all. Listen to this. So New York State power broker Catherine Wild called Ackman's olive branch ridiculous, saying he was merely trying to justify a failed investment, basically covering ass here. Quote, having railed against Mamdani for months, literally, to now turn around and say he's happy to help? I mean, really? Wild noted that Ackman, who had warned that Mamdani would make New York a more dangerous place to live, had donated $1 million to Defend NYC, which is an anti-Mamdani PAC, and $750,000 to Fix the City, which was a pro-Cuomo super PAC. Quote, he is trying to make news out of raising the white flag, and it gets him all the attention. Now, another billionaire named Cliff Asness of AQR Capital Management, another one of these hedge fund guys, called Ackman's overture to Mamdani gimp-like. He also questioned Ackman's self-awareness, citing Ackman's past criticism of Mamdani's refusal to condemn Hamas in the wake of the October 7th shooting. Quote, Soviet-style socialism and the support of terrorism with some obvious hate for Israelis and Jews is past disagreement, past congratulations, and past a gimp-like offer to help. Basically, everyone is clowning on Ackman. Here's another one. Third Point CEO Dan Loeb, who is worth $3.8 billion. Ladies, find a man who loves you the way Bill Ackman loves himself. Another grifter, backstabbing, two-time mutt who only cared about himself and his money.
Yeah, well, I think guys like him, honestly, they're buying time, man. They have to now figure out how to get the hell out of New York and to avoid all the taxes that they already pay a ridiculous amount, and it's only going to get worse, right? So they need to figure out a way to move their businesses and their financial interests out of the state. So maybe he gave that olive branch to buy himself a few months until he can figure out how to get the hell out of there.
I just hope all these mutts wiped the blood off their hands after they shook Andrew Cuomo's hand. An accused sexual predator whose COVID policies resulted in the untimely demise of over 15,000 New York seniors. And by the way, this last thing, and then I'm going to let you go. And you turned your back on like mutts like Sid Rosenberg and John Catsimatidis. What did it get you to sell out Curtis Sliwa? It didn't make a difference in the world. I hope you guys are not getting any sleep anymore after selling out like that. You fucking mutts. Go ahead.
And let me just tell you how it gets worse for those people, and they're going to get what they deserve, especially the so-called elected Republicans who turned their back on Sliwa. Gene and crew, mark my words on this one. I've been saying this for a few years now. Andrew Cuomo, first of all, he knew he was going to lose this race. He got blown out in the primary. They do internal polling. He knew he couldn't win, and he knew Republicans were never going to vote for him in the numbers needed, if they even exist, right? Andrew Cuomo is posturing. What is he posturing to be? The moderate Democrat, the sane Democrat. He knew he would lose. He is running for president. I guarantee you this. He's setting the stage for 2028 where he can claim to save the Democratic Party from the far left radicals in their own party, right? That's what's happening. And it gets worse for those Republicans that actually endorsed Cuomo and tried to convince Republicans to vote for him when he's up on that debate stage in the Democratic primary leading into 2028. Gene, mark this show. I'm telling you that's what he was doing.
I wouldn't doubt it. His ego is that big, but I can't see a guy who blew a 40-point lead in the New York City Democrat primary for mayor actually getting anything. His credibility is shot.
So wait, even at the beginning when he thought he could win, you think he was running to be the mayor of New York City?
No.
He's running for president. Yes, this is a political comeback. He's a snake, right? He's Newsom, but maybe worse, right? He's going to wiggle his way out of this. The first path was become mayor of New York City and rehabilitate yourself. The second path, and he figured this out late in the game, that's why he blew the primary, was I'm going to be a moderate Democrat again like I was when I won the governorship, and when I run for president, I can claim this lane. That's all he's doing.
I would think so. There is one race, pal, where I would give my vote to Andrew Cuomo. And that is, well, mainly because it's halftime here on the show. It's way past halftime here on the show. And I can let you know that this show is sponsored by shop.buffoonoftheweek.com. And I'm going to grift a moment here. This is the only race I would vote for Andrew Cuomo for. We got our Cuomo for Jail t-shirts. They're available in a variety of different colors. We got the baby blue. We got the regular blue. We got the gray. They're all available for you. There's other products available in the same line. We got some stickers over there as well. So shop.buffoonoftheweek.com for all of your Cuomo for Jail needs. And also, I'm going to do a double grift here. There's a second one I want to bring out to everybody. And that is also at shop.buffoonoftheweek.com. And that is our patented and tried and true People's Republic of New York City t-shirt. Folks, you got to check this one out. This one is awesome. I have one of these right now. It's currently in the wash because I already wore it. Designed by yours truly, the People's Republic of New York City shirt comes with an amazing graphic that you can see right there, all the communist stars and the black fists up in the air. Comes in a variety of colors as well, including the red, which I have, and the navy blue. Also comes in different styles. You'll see there's hoodies, we got posters, stickers, we got long sleeve shirts. There's a whole line of it there at shop.buffoonoftheweek.com, which, by the way, you can access through that QR code in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Check out shop.buffoonoftheweek.com.
That shirt was ahead of its time, Gene. It's ready now.
Yeah, we got it. Well, it was prophetic. We've been calling it. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see behind me over my this shoulder here. I'm going to see if I can turn the camera a little bit. That used to be our banner when we would travel places. And it says right there, the People's Republic of New York City. We've been using that for a good long while now.
I love it.
Ahead of our time.
That shirt should be a hot seller now.
We've sold a couple. I have to say we sold a couple, and it's doing pretty.
You might have to update it with a little crescent moon symbol somewhere on there.
I might have to get a couple for you. Get a couple of kid sizes, a couple of adult sizes, send them off to you. For sure. I want to talk about what happened in Virginia. Mainly because I got a little bit of inside information on the campaign of the Republican, the now outgoing Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears, Sears, I think it is. So let's go back to 2022, where Winsome Sears was starting a political career. Apparently, she did not have very good things to say about President Donald Trump in 2022. Fast forward now to she wins. She was lieutenant governor at the time when she was making those statements. If you remember back then, people were distancing themselves from President Trump because of all the different charges and everything that were cropping up in Washington, in Florida, in Georgia, in New York. So she was not exactly a Trump fan. Fast forward to her race in January of 2025, starting then, Trump is coming off a big win. He has this whole machine, this whole campaign apparatus that can help grow and get more electeds out there. So what does Winsome Sears do? She snubs the Trump machine. She instead chooses a different organization to get her campaign staff from. And I confirmed what my source told me from this article here in a publication called the Virginia Scope. Sears' new staff does not have Trump on their side. It turns out, pal, that she went with a consulting firm called Cold Spark to run her campaign for governor after talking with what they're calling in this article the MAGA crowd, and apparently having trouble to bring them into the mix due to comments she made in 2022, which we'll explore in a second. Cold Spark was Nikki Haley's campaign apparatus. She chose the Haley apparatus over Trump's people. Your reaction?
I mean, interesting. Obviously, there's some red meat there. But what I want to say about Virginia and New Jersey, you can actually lump into the same thing here. Virginia is a blue state, right? Yeah. It has not been purple in forever, right? You tell me. I know the answer. Who was the last Republican presidential candidate to actually win Virginia, right? I'll give you a hint. It's more than 20 years ago. Okay, so like it's not a swing state. It's not red. It's not purple. So Winsome Sears.
I want to answer that. Was it W's second term?
Yes, it was. Okay. W pulled Virginia, right? And that's the last time. Okay, so Glenn Youngkin. I don't want to go too deep into the history of Virginia here. He won when Terry McAuliffe said that parents have no right to decide what their children are learning in school, right? And that tipped that election there. Had Trump and company, especially the FBI director, kept their word and actually moved a lot of federal agencies out of the D.C. area and moved it to other parts of the country, you might have minimized that Democratic vote there in Northern Virginia. But with that said, am I surprised that the Republican candidate lost? No. Was Winsome Sears the strongest possible candidate we could have run there? Again, no. However, if you look at the Attorney General candidate that ran and even the Lieutenant Governor's race there, the Democrats won those too, right? So are you going to blame Winsome and Nikki Haley's group for that too? No, it's a blue state, right? I wish she would have went with the MAGA crew, and I hate Nikki Haley. Okay. I don't think that would have changed a damn thing in Virginia.
Well, I also think that Virginia is a backlash state. Whatever happens in the previous national race, Virginia is always the backlash. The losing side always get their hackles up, and they always show up to vote for that next cycle. So I just want to look at the comments, because I don't even know what Winsome Sears' comments were about Trump. Let me see. Okay, so what we saw was, even though he wasn't on the ballot, he was, because he stepped in and endorsed candidates. And yet it turns out that those he did not endorse on the same ticket did better than the ones he did endorse. That gives you a clue that the voters want to move on, and a true leader knows when they have become a liability to the mission. So that is what she was talking about Trump in 2022. And then I guess that came back around to bite her in admittedly a blue state. But the backlash that happened in Virginia, I think, comes from a failure of Winsome Sears and maybe even with Jack Ciattarelli as well to connect with those Trump voters, to pull them off the couch to vote for someone other than Trump. She didn't go with the team that did that for Trump, that had the infrastructure and the apparatus and the know-how to do it. And yes, Juju, I love this. I gotta put this up. Yes, we are nerds. I am a nerd. I am a wonk. I definitely fit this description and wear it proudly, especially when it comes to this sort of stuff. But yeah, turning down the winning team is just buffoonish. It's dumb. It's
I mean, honestly, the margin of defeat in Jersey was more of a surprise to me than Virginia. Virginia, like I said, Glenn Youngkin, that's an anomaly. New Jersey, although that is another deep blue state. Let's not confuse this. If Ciattarelli could have or would have won there, it would have been a nail biter no matter what. There was never going to be like a blowout. It would have been a point, maybe two, right, if he won. But he actually lost ground compared to when he ran against Phil Murphy versus who I would say was a worse candidate, right? Mikey Shirelli or whatever the hell her name is. Cheryl. There's pictures of her floating around wearing a gas mask in the Capitol on January 6th. She couldn't answer a question of what her first main policy would be when she ran. She couldn't commit to lowering any taxes in New Jersey when that is the number one issue there. But just like New York, the number one and two issues in New Jersey on the exit polls were high taxes and cost of living and the need for change. And what did they do? They voted for another Democrat. So I don't get it. They get what they deserve. I'm just shocked because I had predicted that so many Republicans were moving out of New York City into New Jersey that might have tipped the scales. Governor DeSantis said something interesting earlier today. I don't know if it was true or if he was just joking around, but he said the margin of victory in New Jersey is pretty much equal to the number of people who moved to Florida from New Jersey. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds like it could be true.
It could very well be true. I don't have too much insight on New Jersey, really, other than what the numbers told us. But I will say that the polling did say things were going to be closer than they were. And I don't know if that's because they underestimated the rage and the enthusiasm of Democrat voters this election cycle, especially given what Democrats have been feeding them about the shutdown and what they're seeing with ICE and things like that. That may have motivated more people to show up. But I do want to go back to Virginia just one time here, and this may underscore everything about how crazy, fringe, wacky this entire cycle was. Jay Jones, the candidate for Attorney General from Virginia, a man whose text messages talked about unaliving Republicans and their children, won his race against Mayoris, the Republican there. And I want to give you, Mr. Galloway, the opportunity to do an I told you so. Because not too long ago, we had a knockdown drag out about apologizing for what was contained in text messages with the New York Young Republicans. Jay Jones apologized but stayed in the race, didn't do any sort of penance or anything like that, wasn't called on to drop out by Democrats. I think you are owed an apology from me, because it turns out when it comes to election politics, you were right. You should never apologize and you should never show weakness. So I don't have a cap on, but I will tip it to you and say that when it came to election politics, you were spot on. And
I appreciate you remembering that, Gene, because I wanted to bring this up.
I gotta give credit where it's due.
I appreciate it. I was going to mention it during the New York conversation, right? What did the Republican Party in New York do? They took the charters away from young Republican clubs over an internal group chat where they were like joking around about things. Okay, young Republicans joking around about things in a private group chat. This guy threatened to kill his opponent or a Republican speaker of their, in the legislature and his children. And no Democrat called for him to drop out of the race. He stood in. And by the way, The same trend in New York was true in both Virginia and New Jersey. 80% of young women voted for the Democrats, including this candidate Jones. All of them did, right? So which voting bloc is the most problematic in the country right now? It's the mentally ill, probably heavily medicated, definitely COVID boosted, young liberal white women.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's going to lead into your final thought, I'm sure. But I think my takeaway from this election cycle, it's an off-season election cycle. It's always a revenge cycle. But there is no such thing as a Democrat anymore. There are only leftists now. And this year's crop of electeds features a xenophobic anti-Semite communist that is now leading the People's Republic of New York City, a disgraced honor-breaking naval vet who used her position for nepotism and who says that, sure, we're going to triple your energy costs, but if you're a good person, you'll do it. And an attorney general who fantasized about killing Republicans and their children. If the ads don't make themselves already for the midterms, then Republicans deserve to lose. Thank you, Democrats, for defining yourselves before the Republicans ever could. It's the day after that election, and already the storylines and the narratives for the ads going forward, not to mention the impending SCOTUS ruling on redistricting that's going to be coming down and will change the face of 2026. That is the biggest gift you could have ever given us. We get a walking, talking ad in Mamdani. You got Jay Jones fantasizing as he is the top lawyer in Virginia. You got New Jersey being New Jersey and seeing the cost of living rising there. What other gifts are they going to give us throughout this year? We will soon find out. And before we get to final thoughts, you got anything else to kind of put a bow on this whole post-mortem?
Nope. I think you did a fantastic job there.
Thank you, pal. I appreciate that. But it is time for final thoughts. Got coffee grinder left us array. Take care, pal. I'm just going to do a really quick final thought first, pal. I just want to say that, and you don't know this, but the show's thoughts and prayers are with our friend Rick Robinson, who is going to be stepping away for a little bit because of well, I don't want to put his business out on the street. I'll tell you after the show, but Rick, we love you. We're with you. Whatever you're going through, let us know if you need anything from us. And Godspeed to you and your family, my friend. That's my final thought. I'm keeping it short and sweet. Ross, it's on you, man.
All right, let me just cover this topic.
Excuse me while I whip this out. He said.
While I whip this out. It's time to eliminate the filibuster in the United States Senate. It's time. President Trump agrees. There's a bunch of Republican senators coming on board. I'm just going to briefly go through what a filibuster is. So first of all, the United States Constitution says that it takes a majority in the Senate and a majority in the House of Representatives to pass a bill and send it to the president for him to sign or veto. Okay? Majority. There are 100 senators currently. That means 51 votes. 51 votes. Now, another thing that the Constitution allows for is unlimited debate. Okay. Now, in the old days, a filibuster meant that you literally had to stand and speak until you could no longer stand and speak, right? That is unlimited debate. So what the Senate did was they passed a rule. This is not in the Constitution. They passed a rule that to end debate, it would take 60 votes, not 51, and you don't actually have to stand up and speak. You just have to raise your hand basically and say filibuster, and then it takes 60 senators to end that filibuster. Okay, so that's the backdrop of this. Now, Donald Trump has been saying this for a while, and I've been saying it longer than him, to be honest, that the Democrats are insane, right? And it's time to get rid of this filibuster. We can't pass a continuing resolution. And I don't want to go give you a constitutional class here, but a continuing resolution just means, if it's a clean continuing resolution, a clean CR, just means we're going to continue funding the government at current levels, which means Congress already approved this in the past for a set amount of time until we can vote on a new appropriations bill. So the Republicans in the majority in the House, what they could have done was not propose a clean CR. They could have put some little things in there that we actually want and use that leverage to not close the government down and make Democrats vote for it. But Mike Johnson, being the softy that he is, made it a clean continuing resolution. Same funding levels that they had voted for in the past and that Joe Biden had signed in the past, right? But they won't pass that, and they shut the government down. They won't vote on U.S. attorney picks that President Trump is putting forward in places like New Jersey and other places. They won't vote on other confirmations. They won't confirm other constitutional officers that the president has been appointing. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats tried to get rid of the filibuster. The filibuster is a rule. It takes 51 votes in the Senate to change a rule. Chuck Schumer tried to do this when they were in power. The only person that stopped them back then was West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. Where is West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin now? Oh, that's right. He's not in the Senate anymore. He was too moderate for the Democrats, so now he's gone. So guess what, folks? They tried to eliminate the filibuster. And when Chuck Schumer wanted to eliminate the filibuster, it was because the Democrats had the House of Representatives, the White House, and the Senate. And why did he want to do it? He wanted to do it so that they can pack the Supreme Court. And I'm not making this up. Chuck Schumer said he wanted to do this because Donald Trump got too many picks. He wanted to expand the Supreme Court, i.e. pack it, and he wanted to give statehood to places like Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, which presumably would have 2 Democrat senators each, which would create a perpetual Democratic majority in the Senate that we would never be able to break. So not only did they try to do it once, they will do it again. It can only be changed by the party in the majority. If, God forbid, the Democrats win the White House in 2028 and the House and the Senate in 2028, they've already tried to do it before. They will eliminate the filibuster and ram everything down our throats. And I'm going to just close with this last thing. And Trump said this earlier today. They won't even reopen the government on a clean CR, right? A non-controversial clean CR. What other big ticket item do you think the Republicans will get passed for the remainder of this congressional term, and even if we hold on to it for the last 2 years of the Trump presidency, if they won't pass a clean CR? Nothing. Eliminate the filibuster tonight and then ram everything down their throats with 51 votes like the Constitution says and a majority in the House. And that's my final thought.
We were going to debate this a little bit. And I know we're out of time and, you got things to do or whatever. But just to ask, would you be okay with modifying the filibuster to make it that you have to stand up and speak the whole time and bring that back? Would that be okay with you?
So I 100% agree with that, right? But we don't say that out loud. We take the extreme position, art of the deal style, and that would be my compromise. Okay, yes, the filibuster, unlimited debate in the Senate is a real thing. That is in the Constitution. But you have to stand up and speak.
And by the way, D.C. cannot become a state or anything like that. So we know that's not happening. Puerto Rico, that certainly could happen, but I don't think Puerto Ricans would vote for it. But be that as it may, I hear you on this. I just think that you eliminate the filibuster when you have your package that you want to shove down their throat ready to go. And then honestly, you restore it after that. That's what I think you do.
And then they'll get rid of it anyway. They're going to get rid of it, Gene. They're going to get rid of it.
They're going to get rid of it doesn't mean anything to me. I want it to count. But listen, we can debate that next week.
It's the scorpion and the frog, Gene. Why did you sting me? Because I'm a scorpion. It's in my nature.
I know, and I know they're going to do it. But if I'm going to do it, I want to do it with a bang, I guess. I don't know. We're going to leave that there. That we can certainly talk about that next week. But for right now, we are out of time. We are over time here. I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. Like I always say, you could have been anywhere on a Wednesday evening watching whatever you wanted to do, but you chose to be here with us. And I really appreciate that. But for now, it is time to shut this sucker down. You ready to go here, man, or what?
Let's get out of here. End the filibuster.
Let's get out of here. Enjoy the fruits of your spoils, Democrats. It's going to be fun coming in 2026. We're going to have a lot of fun here. Gene Berardelli, Ross Galloway here. We are out. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're behind enemy lines, but not no more. Let's play that motherfucking anthem. Get the fuck out. Good night, folks.
We're not allowed, not without electoral.
Go fuck yourself. Is that clear?
Don't let them have sway. Conservative battalions walking them out, marching through the streets while the buffoons all shout. Move in the shadows, flag on my chest, repping my clan, putting faith to the test. Cause we'll play blues behind enemy lines, fighting for the truth, feels like wartime. Don't back down, keep it rugged and raw, cool in the chaos, but loud in the war. But loud in the war. Thunder, arm in advance, march to the anthem, this is our chance. If I ever stand with a smirk in a gaze, holding down the fort in this Democrat case.